And
Recording, still waiting for the live stream.
it's preparing itself, being sent to Facebook.
To a third party. There it goes.
And is it being sent to Facebook? What's happening here?
It said it
Yes,
is.
it's up. It's
Okay.
up.
All right. Okay, let's go.
It's up. Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to the community briefing. It's the 21st of November. That's not really a song, but it's November 21. And today is a very special day because for a couple reasons. One, we have Mr. Edwin Lombard as our guest speaker. And number two, it is the birthday of Mr. Joseph Duncan, one of our frequent guests. He is celebrating an anniversary of his 39th birthday. And so he will we'll give him some props towards the end of the our conversation today. But my name is Gregory Sneed, and I'm life CEO of Lifesaver Financial Services, helping my clients keep more of the money that they make. And starting in 2025, will be a host of financial literacy programs for folks to get their money together. So stay tuned. Now, it's my pleasure to bring to the virtual stage the Queen, the November Thanksgiving Queen, vegetable growing Queen of our community briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Hey guys, welcome to the community briefing. Glad to have you here. We got a great guest today. He's going to give us some insight from the state capitol, and hopefully will bring us some peace, maybe, or at least some plans. And so you are tuned into the community briefing. This platform was inspired 4 years ago for the purpose of making sure that we were bringing our leaders and stakeholders to a platform so that we would know what was going on in and outside of our own communities and our businesses. So we started for the benefit of the pandemic. Now we are here as The Voice is our networking platform. So we do encourage you to invite others, so it will be the primary place you come to hear what's happening. This platform is powered and sponsored by the Recycling Black Dollars and the BBA, the Black Business Association. And we have a number of monetary sponsors, Los Angeles LDC, Edison, Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas, Wells Fargo Bank, PCR, as well as Urban Excellence. And so we want to thank all of them for supporting us. And so if you guys wish to support and donate to us, we would love that. I am the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. Actually, on the 6th, 7th, I think it's the 7th, it's a Sunday, we're going to be launching the 2025 resource guide. So it's very important that we all kind of start looking to support each other. And so I'll post that flyer in the chat in a minute. But that's what we need to be doing right now in this climate we're in. We need to be taking care of ourselves. Forget everybody else. I'm sorry. Just forget everybody else. Just us. That's all I'm caring about right now. Me and my younger generation and my family and my grandchildren. That's what I care about. So with that, we have a fantastic team. You've already met Greg, and he is our moderator. And Mr. Stephen Turner, he's the producer. And so thank you so much, Stephen, for all that you do. And Miss Robin Billets, she's a little under the weather today, but she sends her regards. And we will see her, I think we're after the week. When is it? December, we're coming back, right? And we got, yeah, December. And so she should be back on top and back in health. She caught a cold from those grandbabies of hers. All righty. So with that, Greg, back to you.
Yes, yes, yes. We will skip next Thursday. That is the Thanksgiving. And we're going to encourage we'll give an early birthday to Renee Tabor. Her birthday is next Thursday. So she will put a candle on top of her turkey and blow out the candle and say happy birthday and Thanksgiving all at the same time. All right.
Awesome.
Our guest today is Edwin Lombard the Third. Anybody call you Trey? Oh, that's for the young kids, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So he is president and chief executive officer of ELM Strategies. He is also the executive director for Californians for Smarter Sustainability. And he's what he brings to the table is excellent management, analytical, and supervisory skills. As a speaker and with communication, great social media capabilities, and he oversees the direction of Edwin Lombard Management. So, and his mission is to create and maintain strategic alliances with major industries, ethnic leadership, and the legislative body in an effort to communicate the needs and concerns of the multi-ethnic community as we support our clients and public needs. So he has been California for Smarter Sustainability, and also with the California African American Political Action Committee, chairman of the board of directors, California Small Business Association. He has been, as I said, president and CEO of his company, his own company, for the last 26 years. So congratulations there. Also, the California African American Chamber of Commerce. He's been with the Black Chamber of Commerce, the California Legislative Black Council, and he was in a golf club. Let's see. He went to Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, and West LA College. We were engaged in a nice conversation beforehand, but I didn't get the chance to find out where did he grow up. Where is he from? Is he from the LA area? Is he from California, Midwest, East Coast? So he will share that with us as he joins us right now. So please welcome to the virtual stage, Edwin Lombard III.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, my friend. Rather lengthy, but yeah, I've had quite a life. I'm actually from New Orleans, Louisiana, but I grew up in Los Angeles. Mom and dad still live on 104th and Figueroa, and I had two older sisters and six younger brothers. So the Lombard name has reigned in Los Angeles for quite some time. A lot of people know Ken Lombard when he was working with Magic Johnson and so forth, and he's now with the Bridge Building. He's a cousin. So, the family is pretty prominent in the Los Angeles area. I now live in Roseville, which is 20 minutes north of Sacramento. I've been in Sacramento now for the last 25 years and, fighting the good fight legislatively and regulatory wise to make sure that the Black voice is heard when it comes to politics in the great state of California. So today, what I'd like to discuss is post-election and, what actually happened and what we can expect for the Black community and, the state of California and the nation at large. We've got two phases of it. The first phase is going to be from a federal standpoint, and then we'll take a deep dive into California, which is much more important to all of us.
Before you get started, are you a Kings, Lakers, or Clippers fan?
Well, growing up in Los Angeles, you got to be a Laker fan, right? I mean, I go back to the Magic Johnson days. I used to hang out in the Forum Club with those guys. So I'm always going to be a Laker fan, but I'm a diehard Kings fan now. I think they're a great club. They've done some good things. They just never seem to be able to get over the hump. And I'm also a Warriors fan because I love me some Steph Curry. Okay. And then in football, I'm a diehard Raider. I don't care how bad they are, right? That's my team. I'm going to pull for them no matter what.
You just made a friend with Joseph.
So let's get into it, guys. All right. With the 2024 election behind us, President-elect Trump is set to take office January 20th with the Republican-controlled Senate and likely a slim Republican majority in the House. We want to take a moment to highlight some of what we believe will be the important outcomes, trends, policy shifts, and political implications that will impact business, consumers, and international relations that may prove critical to some of our friends, clients, and colleagues. The resources of neoliberalism. A systemic shift occurred on election day where the American electorate, tired of the political status quo, exhausted from COVID, and the economy that serves the wealthy, said they wanted a change. And regardless of their personal feelings about the candidate, they voted their pocketbook and their future. And so, after 4 years of globalization, emphasizing free trade, market reliance, and a worker-centered economic policy aimed at raising wages, not just for Americans, but globally, things are projected to change. Say goodbye to some policies and welcome to the new generation of neoliberalism, which is focused on deregulation, privatization, austerity, and trade liberalization. These are fundamental pillars of what Trump campaigned on and what is expected in his administration. For most of the public, there will not seem more change for a while. Prices will not fall for some time, but the economy and inflation are moderating. So with continued likely dysfunction in Washington, D.C., a lot of attention will be focused on the states. For businesses, this could mean fewer regulations, but it also means big adjustments to new and somewhat stricter state policies. This year, inflation and immigration topped the list of concerns, while climate change, once a major talking point, wasn't front and center. Even government social governance priorities are facing pushback from both sides, as some believe these issues have pulled parties too far from core voter concerns. California, a state that has dominated environmental trends for a decade, passed its first ever climate bond, allocating over $10 billion to address climate impacts and promote alternative energy production. Healthcare made quite an evident appearance on the ballots in California. Prop 34 now requires healthcare providers to spend more carefully, and the state increased the requirements for hospitals and doctors for its Medi-Cal program. The issue of abortion is also evolving post Roe v. Wade, with 10 states having considered alternative policies. Marijuana decriminalization continues to make waves, while psychedelics were a step too far for Massachusetts. With a new Trump administration coming in, expect some regulatory shifts. The EPA, for example, could lighten up on enforcement, which might ease pressure on chemical and construction industries, among others. Meanwhile, the ongoing conversations of PFAS, foreign chemicals, litigation continues to impact HVAC, food packaging, and similar industries. Elections are all about choices, ones that affect our daily lives. And in presidential election, voters want to vote for something. It has become clear that alternative media, such as podcasts, are now key to communicating with audiences. Harris' appearance on the Call for Daddy podcast and Trump's appearance on Joe Rogan's Experience proved to be highest profile appearances either candidate made during their election run. In addition to those appearances, both candidates, particularly Trump, took to the podcast circuit to make his case to America. This highlights the continued decline in reliance on legitimate news outlets and increases influence of individuals' voices who command an audience of millions. In a sign of economic uncertainty on the state level, Arizona and California voters turned down minimum wage increase, making the shift towards more moderate policies. Also in California, with rising crime rates, voters passed Prop 36, which reclassifies some misdemeanor offenses as felons. This measure rolls back some earlier reforms, showing a move towards tough on crime policies. With the return to school choice and more states looking to diversify education options and the use of public money for funding, California passed the state's largest school bond for infrastructure, looking to upgrade its schools from mid-70s era building to making up the majority of the state's schools. So what's ahead? A Trump administration is likely to bring fewer regulations, a focus on tariffs and trade, and limited military intervention, we can expect there will be no additional substantial Ukraine funding packages on the horizon, as President Trump has openly stated that he wants to see Ukraine war end and is expected to attempt to negotiate a conclusion to that war. In the Middle East, he will take a hard line on Iran and will likely attempt to tighten sanctions or use additional options at his disposal on Israel. He has also stated he wants Israel to end the war soon and will likely push for escalation in Gaza to force that ending. President Trump will continue to take a hard line on China and continue the policies that began under the administration and furthered by Biden. To help understand the specific policy direction of the new administration, we have laid out a few lists of priorities that are reflective of recent statements and policy proposals from the president-elect and Republican majority on foreign policy. Further unilateral moves in international relations, potentially including withdrawing from treaties and agreements. We already heard him say that. Expect there will be no additional substantial Ukraine funding packages, continuing escalation with Iran, potentially leading to full-blown conflict. Full-throated support for Israel and expect a renewed effort to have a mutual defense pact with Saudi Arabia. Continue to take a hard line on China policies that began under the first administration. It's unclear exactly how Trump would reshape foreign policy in a second term, but it would likely involve continuation of his America First approach. Potential for further isolation and nationalism, including more tariffs and trade wars. On healthcare, full speed ahead to dismantle the Affordable Care Act through both litigation and legal challenges, addressing chronic illness by cleaning up ingredients in food, addressing preventive care, and addressing the obesity and autoimmune crisis in America. Potential to transform Medicare into a voucher program, fundamentally altering the nature of the entitlement. Medicaid could be further transformed into a block grant program, giving states far more flexibility and potentially leading to benefit and eligibility reductions. State may see shifts in federal funding and regulations, including Medicaid expansion and healthcare access. Depending on federal leadership, there could be encouragement for states to adopt or reject policies around healthcare coverage. On the environment and energy, continued rollbacks of environmental regulations aimed at combating climate change, efforts to redirect Inflation Reduction Act funds to fossil fuel programs in key swing states, promotion of fossil fuels at the expense of renewable energy sources, potential withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord. Judicial appointments. A second term would allow Trump to appoint even more conservative judges to the federal bench, including potentially one or two more Supreme Court justices. These appointments could shape the legal landscape for decades, including rulings and everything about abortion and voter rights. The economy and taxes. Renewal of the 2027 tax cuts that primarily benefited corporations and the wealthy. Trade. Trump has promised sweeping new tariffs on imports in the second term. Deregulation across industries could continue abated, particularly in finance. Trump has criticized Democrats' handling of the economy and has shared his position on what should be done on economic issues. His campaign tax and spending proposals are estimated to increase primary deficits by $5.8 trillion over the next 10 years. Social policies, potential rollback of protections and recognition of transgender individuals, potential for further restrictions on access to abortion, efforts to move aggressively on school vouchers and lawsuits to kill school equity mandates. On immigration, further restrictions on both legal and illegal immigration, potentially including more stringent travel bans and increased funding for a border wall. He has promised a large deportation of immigrants in America, the largest deportation of immigrants in American history, potentially for aggressive ICE raids and deportation to continue. Little to no movement on providing a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants already in the US. Trump did not exact any measure to increase access to HB1 visas for high-level immigrants during their first term, and the second term may be similar. While the election is behind us, repercussions are only now beginning to clearly and to become clear and will continue to be scrutinized over the next several months and years, and we will be watching. That's from the federal perspective. I'll stop there because I'm sure that it's a lot to unpack, and I'm sure there's conversations you want to have. And if we have time, I can get deeper into some of the state propositions and things that happen there. So, Crystal, what's your thoughts?
My same thoughts I had before I got started with this stuff. But I do know that there's some other things that are on the table, which would be the SBA minority programs, which, a lot of us that we that's what we're doing is helping our businesses become contract ready. But that's going to be eliminated. Anything that is to give a leg up to Black and Brown, Asian, that's going to be an issue. I'm very concerned, especially as far as the deportation of millions and millions of people, including taking away their naturalization papers that they already have. Dual citizenship. I have a family that have dual citizenship, and so that's an issue. Especially my grandbaby. That's what I'm working on right now, is to activate hers. And will I have enough time to make that happen? So there's a lot of things that impact us. I do feel a lot safer here in the state of California, but as I mentioned to you and Greg before we got started, I have family out in the South. And I have family that work for, a lot of my family members work for the federal government, which means that they will be losing their jobs. And so there's a lot of concerns for us as Black people. And then just the racial part of this is we're always been a target at this. Yeah, they hate everybody else, and other races can assimilate pretty damn easy, but we're not one of those groups, and we do know we're always the prime target. And if you start eliminating the workforce and you started working the people that are actually picking the fruits and vegetables and all that sort of stuff, what does that look like for us? And how safe are we going to be in this country for the next 4 years? So those are my concerns. I do know Newsom. I've heard, I mean, he's ready to fight. But how protected, I guess, and this is a question for you, Edwin, how protected are we here in the state of California?
Well, let's be honest. Every state has its own government platform, right? And the United States was built on the fact that the federal government is pretty much an overseer to make sure that everyone can equally exist in this great nation of ours. But the majority of governance is pushed down to the state level so that a state can determine what will and will not happen to its constituents in that state. The good thing about California is, I mean, we're the fifth largest economy in the world, right? There's not very much that the incoming president can do to change that, except taking all those farm workers who are not documented and sending them back to wherever they come from, which is going to gut the farm industry here in the state of California, which would be a major hit to, our general fund and taxes in this state. So, but we're pretty much protected here in California. My deepest concern with California is that if Governor Newsom pushes too hard against this president, when there is a need for FEMA funding or support from the federal government, for whatever reason, that is just not going to come. It's not something that is going to be provided for us. And the one thing that has become prevalent in the state of California, we are no longer a deep blue state. We have become a deep purple state. We've got more Republican legislators now who are coming into office with the new legislation, the new session that's starting in January. They're all coming to town on the 2nd, I believe it is, to be sworn in. So the dynamic is shifting, and I'm not sure exactly where the void was that changed, that made the shift. I know some of the progressive stances that the Democratic Party took was just a little too far for everyday working class people and conservative individuals, especially even in the Black community. We just felt like they were just going a little too far to the other side. And I think a lot of people listened to what Trump was saying as opposed to actually going back and looking at what he actually meant, what he did in his first, period as president, what he said that he would do, right? That was not publicized on Fox News and some of the more conservative outlets, because they specifically said the things that Trump wanted them to hear, that made people believe that this man has changed, he's different. Well, I'm sorry, he has not changed. He is not different. In fact, he's doubling down, and he's coming after people of color. Let's just be honest. When he says "Make America Great Again," he means "Make America White Again." And Greg said something earlier. He said, "No, you mean keep America white as opposed to make America white again." And I think that's pretty much the direction that we're going in. Was there any other comments on what I've already presented, so I
Well, I
can get
wanted.
into the state portion of this?
Actually, I'm going to bring this up right here, real quick, visually. Let me look at the state piece of it. You're already able to see that reflects how the state of California voted, and you can see that
Yes.
along the coast, there's a lot of blue, but you can see a lot of the, up where you are there. There's a
Yep.
whole lot of red, and a lot of this farm community, and then we can also we'll find some similar things that I was sharing with the group, even here in LA County, where there are certain towns. So you think this is a blue state, but there were certain towns or certain areas that voted predominantly for Trump, and 3 of them were Beverly Hills, Glendale, and Burbank. So.
Yeah, Crystal had mentioned something earlier before we got on the air about Beverly Hills High. Crystal, you wanna expand on that?
Yeah. So I was watching, there was someone sent me a video of what was going on on election day at Beverly Hills High. And there were the white students were walking, not all of them, I'm not sure it wasn't all of them, but it was, a number of them. They were walking through the corridors with their swastika flags, and they were calling out all of the Black people as ends. And the students, the Black students, were terrified. They were being accosted. There was a lot of physicalness going on, and they were afraid. So a teacher, a Black teacher, brought them all into her classroom, and locked them in there for their safety. So, Beverly Hills obviously is in the middle of Los Angeles, and but we do know the ultra rich live there, and there's some other things, some other people from other cultures who assimilate with white were there. But I am very afraid for our children, and I am afraid for them because we historically have not been able to call the police to protect us. So who protects us? If the police is all part of that, and it is becoming this new era of Klansmen, then what do we do to protect ourselves and our family? And how aggressive can we get in order to protect? I mean, I know there's been a massive increase of purchases of guns and other things. I've seen some stats that the percentage of people trying to get out of this country for the next 4 years is reached an all high. There are other countries that are actually inviting you to come giving you a special visa to come to their countries during this time. So I think we just can't shove it off that, okay, this is just his rhetoric, because there are things that are already playing out. And how do we prepare our children for what is about to happen to them, or potentially could happen to them, especially our children that are at white schools? And they're emboldened. I mean, ever since November 5th, there is a certain sense of emboldenment where people feel they can walk up on you and just say whatever they want. It's all, you see it all over social media. And I'm getting some from personal people that are being accosted with this behavior. So yeah, that's what happened on election day.
Okay. Stephen had put up on the chat, he put up a question. He said, well, can you explain why Hispanics voted the way they did for President-elect Trump? Well, Stephen, I had a number of conversations with Latino groups of varying levels, and the overwhelming response was that they felt that the illegal immigrants that are here are making life difficult for them, because everyone figures if you're Latino, no matter what, you're a part of this group. And they said there are some folks that are here illegally that are committing crimes, and that make a bad reflection on them. They are taking jobs away from some of the legitimate Latinos that are here, and they would much rather see them leave the country. What they did not think about was, with this sweep that the incoming president is talking about, he is just not targeting individuals that have a record or that have committed a crime. Anyone who is not documented, they're going to be swept up in this, and they're going to be taken out of the country. A number of Latinos had mentioned to me that they have family members that came here legally and have been in the process for years trying to get their papers. And every time they turn around, they're being pushed back even further. And when I say push back even further, I don't mean months, I'm talking about years. One individual even told me his sister has been here since the early, with the late 1999, I think he said. She still is not documented. And the last time that they tried to finalize her paperwork, they told her it might take another 9 years before she can actually become fully documented. So there's a healthy fear in the Latino community, and they, for some reason, feel because of the sweep that Obama did when he was in office, that it all stems from the Democratic Party and that Trump is just following suit. So it's a total misunderstanding, and I believe they got hoodwinked, and at some point they're going to wake up and realize it was a huge mistake that they made.
I also think there's a number, especially certain Hispanic cultures, the Cubans, and there's some others from Colombia, and those that they consider themselves white. It depends on how, at the time, America was using their numbers to accentuate their numbers. So a lot of them feel that they're Hispanic, but they're white people. And so they've been indoctrinated in into it. So your Rubios, your Ted Cruz, all of those individuals don't classify themselves as Latin. And so therefore, or Hispanic, they feel, they're Spaniards. And so that's different than being a Mexican. And there are a lot, and Mexicans, so there were a lot of Mexican that just refused to vote for a Black woman. First, the woman aspect of it, they weren't going to have a woman guide them to do anything. And then the other side, there are a lot of very racist white Mexican people. Not white ones, just Mexican people are very racist, and they'll tell you straight out that that's what they are. Joseph?
The other thing that we don't lose sight of, and Edwin touched upon it with Black folks, Hispanic and Latino folks tend to be very socially conservative as well. So things that we think are very acceptable positions to take on the right to choose, on gay rights, on gay marriage, on transgender rights. And interestingly enough, so much was made from the Trump campaign about transgender rights and surgeries and so forth. And transgender people in this country account for about 1% of the total population,
I don't think it's
which
that
you would
much.
have thought they were on. Well, the census indicates it is. It might be less. It might be 1/10 of 1%. It's tiny in any case. But you would, if you listen to people on the right talk, you would think they were on every street corner, invading their bathrooms, trying to play their sports, all the rest of this. And a lot of that is misinformation and disinformation designed to divide people. Unfortunately, it worked. It worked heavily with Latino men. It worked more than I wish it would have with Black men. Although, we need to dispel the myth. Black men turned out about 80% for Kamala Harris. I'm really disappointed in the 20, but let's focus on the 80. The only group that voted more heavily for Kamala Harris was Black women, which, no surprise. Those are the two groups that always vote for Democrats. You know who never votes for Democrats? White people, particularly white men, but also white women. They vote Republican in very high numbers. They have since Lyndon Johnson was president. And one of the biggest mistakes I believe the Democrats make is we keep trying to win them back like they were ever here before. They haven't been here in so long that there are people in this room that can't even remember when Lyndon Johnson was president. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, but there are people that we talk to every day that only learned about him in the history books and they didn't learn that much. So when you think about it, Democrats strategically, consistently go after voters that never vote for them. And one of the things I think we need to do, and it starts with groups like us, like the people here, we need to make sure that our loyalty is rewarded and our agendas and our positions are felt with Democrats. And they spend their money with us, they spend their time with us, they hire Black political consultants, which they don't do in large numbers. Even Black Democrats don't, because they're out here trying to fight a war they lost 50 years ago. And and we're losing the Hispanics for the same reason. They, like Crystal said, they want to assimilate. They are socially conservative, and it's going to be a rude awakening. We call this the find out phase. You know the first part of it. Well, we're in the find out phase now. When Abuela gets taken away and there's somebody screaming, but she has papers, and the other people look at them and go, "We don't care." They're going to be really shocked because they don't believe he's going to do it. I've taken a moratorium for most political uh, TV shows and most reading. I used to read intensely daily about political stuff, but I just need a break. But one of the things that I did read is that for some reason, polling shows every lie and negative thing that was said about Kamala Harris was believed by a majority of people. And all of the things that Trump said he was going to do, they were like, no, he's not really going to do that. He's not really going to deport everybody. He's not really going to dissolve the Department of Education. He's not really going to roll back protections on drinking water and FDA inspections of food and so forth and so on. It goes on and on. There was a whole project 2025. They don't believe that that's real. So the find out phase is going to be really ugly for some people. And I'm going to be on the sidelines with some tea watching.
I love that approach, Joseph. This is the way to see time, guys. Let's be honest. We don't know who is going to be confirmed in his cabinet. I mean, he's got some. It's a clown show if you look at the people he's put forward. But we also don't know exactly what policies he's going to approve. But they were already beginning to line up executive orders for day one, and I'm concerned on what those may be. So I tell everyone, just sit back, sit back and wait and see. Do not make permanent decisions or financial decisions that at some point can hurt you. And then pay attention to what he does. There may be certain things that he will do that will benefit you, especially if you're a small business owner. But what I would say is take advantage of those things. Don't let them just go by without paying attention to it. And also, let's be honest, unless he makes himself a dictatorship in some way, form, or fashion, he's a lame duck president. He can only have these 4 years, and after that, he's done. I believe he's going to do everything in his power to try and circumvent that and never leave office again. But if he doesn't, and then the status quo stays as it is, he only has 4 years, guys, and 4 years can go by relatively quickly.
Let's
So
move
what I'd
forward
like
to
to do
the
now is,
state of California.
yeah, let's go to the state. Let's go to the state. All right, millions of Californians made their voices heard on the polls, providing our state and country with new leadership, new policies, and new opportunities for advocacy. Californians for Smarter Sustainability is proud to have amplified the voices of community organizations, residents, and businesses in 2024 state policy discussions. The results of this election cycle brings a new set of resources as well as legislative challenges, and we are ready to lead our diverse coalition in advocating for balanced, thoughtful sustainability policies in the rapidly changing political environment. In the state, voters supported a historic investment in climate resilience by passing Proposition 4, the climate bond. This $10 billion bond establishes a new stream of revenue for statewide climate infrastructure investments, including projects pertaining to water access, environmental infrastructure, climate disaster prevention, damage mitigation, and measures. The bond dictates that 40% of its funds must be used for projects in areas of a high risk of climate disaster or in highly or historically disenfranchised communities, presenting new opportunities for equitable, strategic climate investments that serve our state by bolstering support for the communities who are at risk to experience the most challenges and require critical but scarcely available emergency spending in the event of climate disaster. While California showed their support for environmental progress, they demonstrated concern over the economy by rejecting Props 32 and 33, both of which could have raised costs for Californians. Prop 32 would have raised the minimum wage, possibly causing the cost of goods to rise, while Prop 33 would have allowed for local rent control, risking price hikes for non-rent controlled units. At CAS, we believe the California policy should show balance and support California residents and businesses in living healthy, stable lives by protecting both the environment and the economy. The failure of Prop 32 and 33 tell us that our legislature can do more to support our state's economy, and our coalition is prepared to make the case of California's elected leadership. There was also a subtext to the election results. The outcome shows that California public feels that the state legislature is not doing enough to push issues that have real-world impacts on people's lives. This is particularly visible in the public's decision to push back on Governor Newsom by passing Prop 36, which increased crime penalties while rejecting the easier path to affordable housing offered by Prop 5, defeating the legislature's effort to remove barriers for public entities to pass local housing projects. For CAS, this election holds a particular promise. The proposal of the climate bond will open up a number of funding streams for infrastructure. The governor and the state Senate Environment Committee will be important influencers to that process. Transportation and infrastructure development projects in the state will be scrutinized due to the popular resistance to develop in California. Strong community leaders will need to build local support to ensure that these projects can succeed, a road that CAS is poised and ready to occupy. Californians have shown us that they value policy that balances climate resilience with economic prosperity, a guiding principle for us at CAS. As we enter the 2024 legislative session, CAS will continue to hold true to these values while convening residents, businesses, and community groups to advocate for policies that support resilience and prosperity in California. Guys, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've reached out to Black organizations, the Black community, Black small businesses, to advocate on issues that are of extreme importance here in the state of California, in the state legislature, and in the regulatory bodies. Very few people come through. Most people say they're too busy or they don't have time. Well, I hate to tell you that unless you show up and have your voice heard, they have no idea that this is concerning you or that you're interested in what they're voting on. And they get to the point where they get here in Sacramento and they start playing politics. Most of our newly electeds are not used to the political process because they were never elected officials before. Some of them are very young, highly educated, but they do not understand the process. They get here in Sacramento and they're like a deer in the headlights. They hired their friends and their cronies and their maybe a staff person that they had to come and be their chief of staff here in the Capitol in Sacramento. And when they get here, they don't even know how to move paper from one desk to another. So they get caught up in the process. And then the politics begin. Those elected officials that are experienced and lobbyists who pretty much dominate this state go into their offices and they convince them to vote in ways that will be best for their clients and not necessarily best for their constituents. And unless the constituents are in the ear of these legislators explaining to them how these things will affect them, they will vote in a way that is going to help promote them within that building so that they can get a better committee assignment, a better office in the building, and be able to make their next political move. Because let's be honest, every 2 years they have to run again. And after 12 years now of being in the assembly, you have to move. It used to be you only had 4 years and you had to then find another place to land. Now they've at least given them 12 years to be here. But after that 12-year period, you got to find another landing place. Otherwise, you don't have a job. And so the push is to always be campaigning, always be fundraising, always look for higher ground to find the next place for you to find that's safe for you. That's California in a nutshell.
So, wanted to unpack a little bit on some of the propositions. You brought some of the propositions up. You mentioned 36, and what seems to happen a lot is things get bundled together, and when they get bundled together, it can be confusing. So you've got to have the information. I'm guessing that if you had extracted, because the 36 was fentanyl and shoplifting. So if you had just voted on fentanyl, you probably would have said, yes, that's a major problem, and the law didn't allow for adequate prosecution of people importing fentanyl. So you would vote yes on that. But then you would say, well, we're shoplifting. All right, that might be different. So if you had extracted that, it'd be interesting to see separated the two. So you had 36A and 36B, so to speak. It'd be interesting to see where that happened. And it's just getting that information out. A lot of these propositions, you get the book, the voter information book, and the explanation of the prop goes 40 pages. So, we have someone on attending today, Emma Maxey, along with Roz and Sarah. They provided voter information, I wouldn't call them seminars, workshops, so to speak. And it went on for, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 5 or 6 weeks. How long?
Town hall meetings for 2 months.
Town hall,
every
right.
week. Yes.
Town hall at the new townhouse. Okay. So, and it went on for, was it like 5 or 6 weeks, 7 weeks? I can't remember. Mm-hmm. So they went through the judges and so we're not getting that, to the broader community. So when you're going to the voter booth, you may know tons about the advertising, about the presidential. You could not know about who was running for office and the differences between Trump and Kamala Harris. But when you get to some of these props and some of these state measures, Sacramento is either intentionally bundling together for confusion. And so where can we start to either unbundle that or get better information out to the community?
Well, the good thing is we have Shirley Weber as our Secretary of State, right? And she is amazing when it comes to trying to make sure that the general public gets the right information. Because it is a state institution, though, her hands are just a little bit tied. So they try to give as much information on these propositions as they can. And for the most part, like you said, it's overkill. Who's going to sit there and read a book about a proposition? It's not going to happen, right? So you've got individuals like myself who try to put out information about what's real and what's not. The problem is, for some reason, the masses are not paying attention. If they're not reading, if they're not hearing it on a blog, or it's not some online service that they cater to, they miss it, right? And they believe what they hear from the blog person. A lot of times, it's personal to them, and they make decisions based on what's going to benefit them the most, as opposed to how it's going to affect the masses here in the state of California. So it's a difficult process. I totally and completely agree with you. And Emma knows this better than anybody. She's been trying to educate people on these things forever and a day. And, you get a handful of people that are listening to you. You reach out to the masses, and very few people show up and want to actually hear what you have to say. So the individuals are going to have to just decide, I need to know more about this. I need to understand what my vote really means, and vote accordingly, instead of just voting on something based on what they heard from someone or what someone else said to them, instead of doing a deep dive in research. And with the current administration, I would suggest you got to do that deep dive. If you don't, you're never going to be voting the right way. And the perfect example is what just happened in the election. Right. So, and I appreciate programs like yours, because you give that kind of information. You help people understand what's real and what's not. And if you can't give it to them on the air, you at least point them in the right direction to say, here, go here and take a look at this, and you will find out what's really going on. So kudos to the community briefing. Hopefully you will continue to do so. And I've been an advocate for you guys for a long time. I show up when I can, and I will continue to do so.
Cool. And then it's not only, thank you, I appreciate that. It's not only what's on the ballot, but what doesn't get to the ballot. The measures that are proposed. There's one near and dear to my heart, that for the last 12 years, there have been measures trying to require financial literacy to be mandated for high school instruction, and it doesn't get it doesn't even get to be a proposition. It gets knocked down. It fails for lack of support. So I understand there was supposed to be another one on for this election, and it just up and disappeared. I think there was a representative out of Chino that had drafted one. And so we've got about 3-4 minutes left. Joseph, I see you got a question. Hopefully it's a quick question, but we got to get to the point where we get ready to summarize Mr. Lombard's presentation. And
just a quick comment on the initiative process. What we have is basically two tracks that things become law in California. We have the standard way where bills get proposed in the legislature, pass both houses, and get signed by the governor. The other track is this initiative process, which can be both good and bad. It's the ultimate double-edged sword, because anyone with enough money to hire people to go out and get signatures outside the grocery stores and wherever else can get something on the ballot, and then spend a bunch of money on commercial advertisement to get popular support from people who don't really understand what the initiative does. We've seen a lot of that. Fortunately, sometimes the court strikes some of the more egregious ones down as unconstitutional. But we have to be really careful about the ballot measure process because in most cases, it's run by people with money to do things that are not in our interest in any way, shape, or form, but they're able to get support from people by misleading them about what it's about. People are so worried about having to get their items out of Target from behind the glass case that they voted for basically the return of three strikes, and they don't even realize it. Those are the kinds of things that we have to be careful about.
And so that means when Emma and if they and their plan is to continue on the town hall meetings, we have to attend. We have to make sure we refer people to them so that even for the upcoming midterms that we
Right.
start preparing early and educating as many people as we possibly can. I think people are much more involved in the election process now than they ever probably have been in the past. And so we just need to make sure, however we can support to make sure that Emma and Roz can continue this because it's important. And not just that, we need to be sitting in on meetings, the city council, the LA councils, all of those meetings. We need to be sitting in on those. I get emails from the county. I get emails from the city. I signed up. I get their newsletters. So if there's something there and we need to jump on it right away, we have to use our communities to send letters. I actually have written to all of the current administration saying, you know, our democracy is in danger. What the hell are y'all going to do? And I've written to all of our senators and that represent us here in the state of California, and I've gotten, you know, their emails coming back to me, but we need to do that on a regular basis. We need to make everyone accountable, flood their email boxes. It doesn't take much. If you don't know how to craft the letter, use AI to make that happen and then put that letter in, and it's on all of their websites. You don't even have to send anything through the mail. All you have to do is drop it, go to their websites. There's a place there that you can speak to them, contact them, and all their information is there. So it's really simple. Weekly if you have to, because if our voices are not heard during this next 4 years and we have issues in our own community, it doesn't help if we don't speak up. We have to be more proactive in this process to protect ourselves. And if you don't care about yourself, then protect your children and all the children that are in our communities. That's very, very important right now. And we are going to wrap up. I will say this. I remember the first Trump presidency, and I was extremely stressed. I remember COVID. If y'all don't, I do. And it was very stressful not knowing whether or not you were going to die next week. My business partner, Gilbert, he almost did die in the hospital and came out with a $150,000 bill. So these are real things. And if you think that COVID one was the last epidemic, no, we're going to have something that's going to happen in this next 4 years. We got Elon doing some crazy stuff. We have Dr. Oz as the Department of Health. I mean, come on, guys. Next, I'm not surprised that they don't bring Diddy out of prison and let him head up sexual crimes. I know, what the hell?
It's coming. It's coming. Just stay tuned.
I mean, it's just like every degenerate that they could have possibly found to head up some sort of department is being found. They're going to scrape up anybody. So
we've got another bail hearing coming up, so he might.
Medicare may, for those of us that are 65 and worked hard past that and worked hard to get to our Medicare and our Social Security, that may just go to the wayside so he can pay for Elon to go live on Mars. I mean, come on, guys. They are here for the corporate, the money grab. That's all they're there for. Every last one of them there is to rip every dollar and just leave America just destitute like Venezuela. So I say protect yourself, practice self-care, make sure you take time out for self. Don't bury your head in the sand like sometimes we do. Do not become apathetic, because all of our lives depend on how we interact with ourselves, and we must connect together as a people, Black people, and we have to protect our interests and our community. Nobody else cares about us. And so we have to be the ones to do that. So supporting each other, supporting each other's businesses, supporting the community briefing, sending folks over here. If you hear nonsense, send them to the community briefing. Give them a whole list of people that they can talk to. Young people, send them to work and be foot soldiers. Don't let them talk nonsense to you. Send them to somewhere. So we got 19,000 organizations, nonprofit organizations in our city that deals with everything that we have, every issue. Send them there to be interns and volunteer their time, and so they can get it firsthand. That way, when they go to vote, they will know that this is not superbly, this is real stuff that's happening in our community. That's my advice for. And go to the doctor. Don't ignore nothing, because who knows, you may not have any health insurance soon. So you better get in and get all your stuff right now, because who the hell knows what the hell is going to happen. And that's kind of what I have to say.
Can I give a closing?
I can say that is not on, that I can't say on public. So the after show, I'll tell you what I really feel. Go ahead, Edwin.
So one thing, if you're too busy and you don't have time to, sit on committee hearings and show up and all of that stuff, you can join the nonprofit Californians for Smarter Sustainability, or CAS. The website is californiansforsmartersustainability.com. I am the executive director, and one of our main things is we represent the voice of the people here in the state legislature and in regulatory bodies. But unless we have people signed on as constituents, we can't represent you. And I would love to have community briefing join CAS. And we also provide information to all of our members so that you know what's going on, what's coming, give you an opportunity to have a voice, tell us what you feel about these things, so that we can make sure that your voice is being heard here in the state of California. So CaliforniansForSmarterSustainability.com. You can join as a non-paying member and put your logo on and everything, and we'll represent you as we do the good fight. And thank you guys for having me today. I've truly enjoyed this.
Really good. And please come back with any stuff, any news you have, anything that you feel that we all need to be jumping on. If you need our support, please do that, because that's the purpose of us, is to make sure that we're being socially active in our community, care for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
All righty.
Our guest next week, actually next week is Thanksgiving, so we're going to skip next week. You all enjoy some turkey and some ham and some brisket and some mac and cheese and sweet potatoes. Okay. But our guest on the 5th of December is Tom Mueller, who is a senior fellow at the New School. We're a team of medical scholars and economists, and he'll be talking to us about healthcare through the lens of the dialysis industry. So that will be on the 5th of December. Edwin Lombard, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you. You threatened that you might come down on the 11th for the BBA. The BBA will having a holiday party on the 11th of December 11th. At the new townhouse. Say what?
And the flyer is actually in the comments in the chat right there, as well as Recycling Black Dollars is actually launching our 2025 resource guide. So we're going to be at the Cultural Interior store on Slauson. So please come on out and support us. We are honoring all our young men that are part of Jackie in our environment and community, and this is our future. So they're going to come out and speak. A number of the young men that picture is on the front of the cover of the resource guide. So supporting that is going to be on December 8th. Also, that flyer is in the chat at the very top somewhere. If you came in late, I will put it in again. All righty. So thank you guys for joining us. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Enjoy your family. Try to de-stress. Take care of yourself. Ignore the news right now because it's a clown show. And if you can ignore it, find something. I watch Korean drama right now. That's how I stay sane because they have nothing to do with the United States.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
That's my method and my garden. Those are the two things that I do in order to maintain my sanity. So, and if you are into sports, you got a whole bunch of sports coming up. So just turn off the news. Don't listen to any of these nut jobs. Definitely don't listen to anything Trump or Elon Musk has to say.
Oh my God.
You'll be ready to strangle some people.
Or the vice president.
Pay more attention to what's done versus what's said.
Yeah, right. So
pay more attention to what's done and what's said. You know that the one knucklehead didn't make a lot. Well, he made a lot of noise, but Reagan did far more damage. He didn't talk so much about it, but he did far. There's still lasting things that he has done that we're still dealing with from the Reagan administration. So.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some stuff that a lot of people lost their families during COVID. Over 1 million people died. We cannot forget that 1 million people died, and some have some lasting long-term effects to having been living with COVID, living with the after effects, the long-term effects of COVID. So that was huge. And
I didn't say Trump didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything. I'm just saying. But there's a lot of talk, and unfortunately, I think that's what helped him get him elected is amplifying the talk and providing too much coverage. He got free advertising that he didn't.
And he still is. And he still
I believe what he said he's going to do. I really do.
People like that need an audience, and if you ignore them,
but
if you play into and respond to everything that they're doing, you're just adding fuel to the fire.
Right, exactly. So we do have to. It's a balance. It's a healthy balance.
Let's focus. Let's get together locally. Let's get together on the state. I think what Edwin's doing here for smarter sustainability right here in the